Do you feel overwhelmed a lot? Do you feel demoralized or sad or low energy or nervous? Or are you in bad mood, irritable or angry most of the time? If so, you might be caught in so-called thinking traps that are making you feel worthless, anxious, or even depressed. Thinking traps or cognitive distortions are thoughts and thinking patterns that are not true. They distort reality and make you view situations in a one-sided, usually negative way. And this ultimately leads to you making poor decisions, which affects your well-being and prevents you from being successful and living the life that you want to live. Today we'll talk about 4 extremely common thinking traps, how to identify them and fix them. So these faulty ways of thinking are super common, even among otherwise sensible and smart people. And these thinking patterns are irrational and erroneous, but the person engaging in them does not notice it because they've been thinking this way for so long that it has become a habit. Thinking traps can be very harmful because they make you see the world in a distorted manner, and as a result, you make decisions based on inaccurate information, which will eventually get you into trouble. Another point is that faulty thinking exaggerates the negative, and this blown out of proportion negativity makes you feel bad about yourself, anxious, frustrated, depressed, and overwhelmed and hopeless. And as a consequence, it significantly drains your energy and makes you miserable. And of course, all of this can seriously damage your relationships. So let's discuss 4 common thinking traps and see what can be done to break out of these negative thought cycles. The first thinking trap is black and white thinking. When you use black and white thinking, you think in extremes. Your day is either perfect or the worst day ever. You either feel like you're the luckiest person alive or like the whole world is conspiring against you. And it normally makes us focus on the negative side of the issue, because our minds naturally scan for threats in the environment so that they can prevent bad things from happening to us. So with black and white thinking, you don't see things for what they are. For example, if a person does something that you interpret as bad, it's easy for you to think that they are a bad person. And because of this extreme thought, you may be ignoring some other evidence that they actually, as any person, have both flaws and virtues. And you may exclude others from your life, although they were actually adding more positive than negative to it. So you can see how this way of thinking makes it difficult for you to accept people, situations, and things in your life unless they are perfect, and they usually aren't. Apart from that, black and white thinking also makes you have strong emotions. It makes your mood swing rapidly, which can ruin your relationships and make you feel exhausted most of the time. Consider this example. Imagine your partner didn't clean the floor as they had promised, and you're upset, so you say things like, "Why do you never clean the floor? You always forget about your promises." Or, "Why is it that I'm the only person here who does the cleaning?" But this is just probably not true. It's not always or never. And accusatory statements like that don't make your partner want to help you more. Instead, you exaggerating the negative in their behavior makes them upset too. So they get defensive. They might say, "It's not true, it's not never. I did help out last week." And there you are, arguing over the semantics. But this is not the point. This is not why you brought up this topic in the first place. What you meant was, "You helped me less than I'd want you to, and this is upsetting me." So make sure you formulate the sentences in a precise way so that you don't have those petty arguments and discuss the actual issue instead. Fun fact real quick. Did you know that women are actually more likely to use this kind of phrasing? This is related with the concept of women's language as opposed to men's language. I promise this is a thing. In fact, when women say, "You always do this," or "You never do that," what they're trying to communicate is how hurt they feel. So they transmit the strength of their emotions through extreme wording, while knowing that technically it's not always or never. To dive deeper into this topic and to learn how to understand your partner better, read the wonderful bestseller by John Gray, "Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus." I'll also summarize this book in one of the upcoming videos for you, so stay tuned. Let's get back to black and white thinking. You can spot it in yourself by noticing the phrasing you use. Words like always, never, the best, the worst, the only, no one, everyone could be a sign that you're engaging in this harmful thought pattern. Intense emotions with sudden mood swings could also indicate that you're thinking in extremes. So try out this experiment. For each thing that happens to you, don't rush into your first black or white interpretation. Instead, take some time to find both positive and negative sides of the issue. And you will find both, because the reality is different shades of gray. It's the combination of the two. There are very few things that can be 100% good or 100% bad. If you use this technique, you'll notice that your emotional state will be more balanced and you'll feel calmer and more in control of the situation. Example, I'm living with my husband's mom now because she's having some health issues and we're helping her out. And I work from home, so I actually spend the whole day with her. Before she came, I was very stressed because I like to have a lot of time and space for myself without anyone distracting me. And I also like to manage my time as I want. And in this situation, waiting for her to arrive, I might think, why does some stressful stuff always happen to me? Why does life never leave me alone? But notice the words always and never here and ask yourself, is it really always that way? Unlikely so. And then think of some contrasting evidence. When was the last time when I was living in a calm environment? Well, some days it's nice and quiet here, and while my husband's away, apart from working, I study and read, I dedicate some time to self-care, and some days turn out to be really nice and peaceful actually. When I think this way, I feel better. My anxiety and stress levels decrease, and I think that in the future, peaceful days will come again. And while the present situation may be unpleasant for me, it's not a disaster. Number 2, all or nothing thinking. All or nothing thinking, as I see it, is a special case of black and white thinking. It makes you think that your performance at something is either perfect or isn't worth anything, that you are either a success or a failure. For example, someone might think, my goal was to go to the gym 4 times a week, but this week I managed to go only once, so my whole workout schedule is ruined. I'm a complete failure. I'm unable to do it right. Might as well watch TV and eat fast food. Or, I set the goal of cutting sugar out of my diet, but yesterday I ate a piece of chocolate, so my diet is ruined. I'm a complete failure. Why try? It's not gonna work. I might as well keep on eating sweets. Can you see how this thinking pattern can stop you from working on achieving your goals? All or nothing thinking can make you feel hopeless and make you give up where you could achieve big results if you kept going. This is how it prevents you from unleashing your potential, reaching your goals, and it ultimately stops you from becoming the person that you want to be. All or nothing thinking lies to you because you are making progress. You are getting better. If last month you ate 1 kilogram of sugar and this month you ate half a kilogram, you are making progress. It might not be perfect, but you are making progress. And it is paramount to acknowledge that progress for you to stay motivated, to keep going and reach your goals in the long run. If you went to the gym 1 time instead of 4 times this week, it's still much, much better than not going at all. So make sure you acknowledge the smallest progress and celebrate the smallest victories, even when your performance is not perfect, which is completely normal. Let yourself be not perfect, but be a person who gets better. Be a person who gradually improves, who puts effort into pursuing their goals. So again, taking my husband's mom as an example, when I was preparing for her to come, I kind of automatically thought that our interaction would be either very successful or a disaster. I continuously imagined how I do something wrong and destroy the connection and trust we're building. And it made me feel stressed and under a lot of pressure because in my mind, in order to succeed, I needed to be perfect. So then I thought to myself, when I met her for the first time, she was very nice to me. She took good care of me when I was suffering from altitude sickness, and in general, she seemed to me a nice and calm person. And our interaction may be not perfect, but it will probably not be a disaster either. I can screw up, she can screw up, it's normal and natural, and we'll talk about it, we'll make amends if necessary, and we'll move on. No one's perfect, and no one should be. Let's move on to catastrophizing. This thinking trap makes events in your life look worse than they are. If you use this thinking pattern, you blow unpleasant situations out of proportion without noticing it. Catastrophizing harms you because it makes you feel anxious, overwhelmed, stressed out, and hopeless. And just like all or nothing thinking, it prevents you from moving forward and achieving your goals. Catastrophizing also means that you're unable of focusing on the solutions. Because if you think that everything is so horrible, you feel overwhelmed by the magnitude of the problem, and you don't have any energy to try and solve it. On the other hand, since catastrophizing also makes you feel hopeless, it convinces you that nothing's gonna work. Now, you might be catastrophizing when you feel very anxious, overwhelmed, and hopeless, when a situation feels like the end of the world. Here again, the vocabulary you're using might be a hint. Words like horrible, the worst, will never, a complete failure, a disaster, can indicate that you're catastrophizing and believing the worst case scenario that your mind helpfully provides. It's also typical to spiral into negative chains of thoughts when you catastrophize each next element of the chain. For example, my partner seems distant this evening. It must be boring for them to spend time with me. If it's boring for them, they'll dump me soon. If they dump me, I'll be devastated. If I'm devastated so much, I won't be ever able to recover from it. If I never recover, I won't ever date again, and I will end up alone for the rest of my life, and I'll be completely miserable. You see how quickly you can go from your partner being distracted that evening to the rest of your life being a complete disaster. And if your brain is well trained at catastrophizing, these thoughts flash through your mind so quickly that you don't even notice them. It's like rapidly changing pictures in your brain. But what you can notice is the way you start feeling about the situation. Your partner is distant, and it feels like the end of the world. So when you feel that way, try to become more aware of what you just thought, what you just imagined in your mind. Then ask yourself, is it realistic? Can you imagine some more neutral or even positive explanation of your partner being distant? Can you think of a positive outcome of the situation? And of course, you can also ask your partner open questions. For example, how are you feeling? What's on your mind? So I'm very protective of my space and time, and when my husband's mom was going to come, I imagined that she'll want to talk to me all the time, that she'll be distracting me with the noise she makes, and that I won't have enough time for myself and I won't be able to concentrate. Long story short, I thought that I'll suffer a lot, but now I'm actually living with her. And it turns out she's actually very respectful of my space. She spends a lot of time in her room knitting or solving the word searches I got her. She is quiet and she sometimes even cooks lunch, which can actually free up more time for me to work and study. So if you fall into this catastrophizing trap and you don't have any contrasting evidence yet because you are catastrophizing about a future situation, try out this trick. If you're catastrophizing, you've probably done it before 1,000 times. So think of examples from the past when you anticipated a disaster, but the situation actually turned out to be okay. I bet the vast majority of the situations where you catastrophized fall into this category. In my case, they do. So considering that normally what you imagine is much worse than the real outcome, just think to yourself, if I'm thinking this, the real situation will definitely be better. I'm probably exaggerating the negative just like I did so many times before. And saying this to yourself can create a distance between you and your thoughts. And it can allow you to see them for what they are. Just thoughts. Just a product of your extremely anxious brain trying to prevent a non-existent disaster. It also allows you to separate your thoughts from the reality. Realize that it's not real and decrease the anxiety levels. Here comes my personal favorite, mind reading. This is, from my point of view, the winner in ruining relationships, at least out of the 4 thinking traps we're discussing today. Mind reading means imagining what the other person is thinking in your own head and then accepting these thoughts as real thoughts belonging to that person. Can you spot the logical fallacy here? Mind reading leads to devastating consequences, especially when you attribute negative thoughts to other people. For example, your friend might ask for your honest feedback about a presentation they are making for work. You honestly tell them what they need to improve. Later that evening, you get an uncomfortable feeling that you were too harsh on them and that your friend took offense. Also because they've become somewhat absent-minded after you gave them your feedback. You might feel worried, insecure, and guilty, but then you might remember that the friend had asked you to be honest with them. So now you can start feeling angry and resentful. There appears more and more tension in the room until finally you say in an abrupt manner, "It was you who asked me to be upfront. Why are you getting offended if that's what you asked me to do?" At that point, your friend might say, "What are you talking about? I'm not offended." Maybe they were just analyzing your feedback, trying to figure out how to improve the presentation. But keep in mind, when you fall into a thinking trap, you often believe that your thoughts are an absolute truth. So you might go on with your narrative and say, "Yes, you are offended. I can see it in the way you're acting." And it is only natural that they instantly get defensive because you're attacking them and you don't even believe them when they say that you are mistaken. So if you mind read, you attribute your own negative thoughts to other people and then you accuse them without even giving them the chance to express what they really think. And the most severe case of mind reading is you don't believe them when they refute your assumption. This is detrimental for your relationships because it makes you feel resentful of people around you for no real reason, which makes your behavior unpredictable and confusing for others. You gradually lose the emotional connection with that person because they feel that you don't understand them and that you don't even care what they really think or feel, as you keep on misinterpreting their behavior. So, what to do if you tend to mind read? Catch yourself. Did they actually say that? Is there a different possible interpretation for their actions? Also, whenever you're tempted to mind read, get the other person to verbalize what they're thinking. And in order to do that, make sure you ask open questions. For example, what do you think of XYZ? Don't accuse them taking your interpretation as fact right away. And ask for their perspective from a place of curiosity and acceptance, not from a place of offense and accusation, because this can lead to a conflict. Consider this example. I took my husband's mom to the hospital a couple of days ago, and it turned out it was impossible to get her tests done that day, although earlier they had told me we could come that day. I was furious. I was running from one place to another trying to figure out who was the person in charge and get the labs done anyways. Finally, I consulted in the private lab of the hospital about the price, and it was very high, which stressed me out even more. And then, when I came back to my husband's mom who was waiting for me, I saw her eating. Now, she had to do a fasting blood test, and we told her several times that she shouldn't eat. I got even more pissed off and felt completely helpless at that moment. We do everything humanly possible to help her, and she didn't follow the only instruction given to her. And because of that, we couldn't get her tests done anyways that day, after all the effort. So I cried in the toilet and felt better, but I still was very frustrated, and she could certainly see it on my face. Then the day got better, I regulated my emotions and felt relaxed. I took her to the ultrasound, and on our way there, I also asked her why she had eaten. It turns out she completely forgot about the instructions. We laughed about it, but for the rest of the day and the following day, I felt like she wasn't talking to me as much. She was silent and emotionally reserved and wasn't helping out in the kitchen either. So the cycle started. She thinks that I'm weak, that I'm hysterical, that I'm no match for her son. She's disappointed in me. I blew it. These thoughts made me feel insecure and very anxious, and I felt really uncomfortable around her. And notice how, apart from mind reading, I was also catastrophizing, calling myself hysterical, although I actually didn't behave that way in front of her. I just looked annoyed, that is all. Because I knew I was probably in a thinking trap, I was doing my best to counter those thoughts. I searched for a different interpretation of her behavior. And what I noticed was when my husband was talking to her, she was also answering in monosyllables, which meant she wasn't holding a grudge against me. But you see, in order to find such evidence, you need to be willing to search for it. You need to be open to other interpretations. As it turned out later, she was feeling unwell after the ultrasound, that is all, and we still get along really well. So what can we do to get out of these thinking traps, or at least to take control over them, so that they don't mislead our behavior? The first step is always becoming aware of what you're thinking. Keep in mind the words typical for thinking traps and detect the situations when you experience intense emotions. This way you'll recognize the moments when you fall into the traps, and when you do, make sure you label them. For example, you could say something like, "Oh, here's some black and white thinking again," or "Hello, catastrophizing. You've brought some more negative thoughts to me today, but I'm not buying them." This way you create distance between you and your thoughts, and by doing that, you can break free of them, because then you don't need to blindly believe them and they cannot fool you anymore. So once you've detected a thinking trap, look for contrasting evidence, ask other people for their opinion, make a list of other possible explanations for the situation. And then it's also very effective to reformulate the original sentence in a more realistic way. My partner sometimes doesn't wash the floor as promised. I went to the gym once this week. It's less than I had planned, but it's still a workout. Good for me. Next week I'll do even better. If I mess up, it's fine, and others will get me because they mess up too sometimes. But I'll make sure I'm well prepared for the situation, and hopefully I won't mess up. It's not the worst day ever. It's just a bad day. My partner is distant this evening, and I don't really know why. Maybe they have problems at work. Maybe they are tired. They could be having a headache. I'd better ask them how they feel. And notice how you feel while saying these thoughts to yourself. You feel much calmer and in control, don't you? Doing all this takes mental effort, concentration, and discipline, because we have automatic negative thoughts that are very habitual for us. But be confident that over time, with practice and repetition, you can reprogram your mind and make those more neutral or even positive thoughts your default mode. Learning how to neutralize thinking traps has plenty of benefits. You'll feel calmer, more in control, and in general, you'll be in a better mood. Your emotions will be less spontaneous and more manageable, and you'll become less reactive to external factors. As a result, you'll free up a lot of energy that you used to spend on worrying and being angry, and you will be able to use that energy on solving the situations instead of being anxious about them. You'll also probably become more assertive. You'll have smoother relationships and avoid pointless conflicts. People around you will feel safer and more relaxed, which will allow you to build more connection and establish closer relationships. People will also probably be more authentic around you, because they won't be afraid that they will accidentally trigger your strong emotional reactions anymore. You'll see the reality in a more precise and nuanced way, which will allow you to make better decisions and be more efficient. Noticing and acknowledging your progress will allow you to feel encouraged to keep going, and you will be more persistent in pursuing your goals. I still fall into thinking traps, as you can see from my examples, but now I can spot and challenge them quickly. And most importantly, I make sure I don't act on them and evaluate the situation first. I look for contrasting evidence, think of similar situations from the past, and ask people for their opinion before jumping to conclusions. This helped me to gain control over my emotions and to feel more confident and composed when communicating with others and even faced with a conflict. And my favorite part is, I don't feel as exhausted as I used to anymore, because being calm during the day is like a power-saving mode to me. And of course, this also helped me enjoy my daily routine. I don't obsess over the small stuff as much anymore. And when negative thoughts come up, I do my best to label them and let go of them. I hope this was useful. Next time we'll discuss several more common thinking traps. So if you like this topic, stay tuned. Let me know in the comments if you've recognized these thinking traps in yourself or in people around you. If you're new here, my name's Tatiana. I struggled with panic attacks in the past, but I managed to overcome them and boost my mental health in many aspects. And learning about the topics of mental health and the ways our minds work has been a crucial factor in my progress. That's why on my channel I share the information I learned from books, therapy, and my own experiences, hoping that you will benefit from this knowledge too. So if you'd like to learn more about tools, techniques, and strategies that I used to get better and that worked and are working really well for me, make sure you stick around. If you liked the video, give it a like. This way the channel will be able to reach a larger audience and help more people. Have a nice day, and I'll see you next time.